there's so many different avenues, but I think the biggest thing is Tomlin really kind of let it on that he's confident, which is something that we have known throughout this entire process, that the Steelers are confident, that offers have not changed. And at the same time, kind of hinted that he understands or knows when an answer is coming, and knows that him and Rodgers have an understanding of what is coming in the coming days or minutes or weeks or months or, whatever. And he obviously dove into everything that means and whether it impacts their draft plans or impacts free agency or so on and so forth. But the big thing with those two is communication has been consistent with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have not been in the dark as much as we all believe that they have been in the dark, and I think that's very important. He obviously highlighted that the meeting went really good when they did visit, or when Rodgers visited the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just spoke that they're on somewhat of the same page and that he's not putting words in Aaron's mouth and he's not guessing on when Aaron Rodgers is going to give an answer. But it sure kind of seems like he knows when that deadline comes, and maybe an answer comes beforehand, but probably not after. And that most likely gives the Steelers some peace of mind. Now, nothing's guaranteed, and it does not mean that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then you get Aaron Rodgers thrown with DK Metcalf, and you're thinking, put two and two together, why else is he throwing with DK Metcalf? And Omar Khan's response to that is, I don't know anything about that, but if he did, good. Yeah, why is it good? Because Aaron Rodgers, the future Minnesota Vikings quarterback, is practicing with DK Metcalf? No, because Aaron Rodgers, the former or the future Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, is throwing with his top wide receiver target in DK Metcalf. Just to add on to where they go from there if Rodgers does not sign, and this is a rabbit hole, so I'll just kind of, lay it out with Mason real fast and then ask you your opinion on everything that's gone down, because, you've heard we've tossed everything in group chats, and, it's not like the news cycle hasn't been going crazy. Mason Rudolph seems to be option B for the Steelers, although they won't name option B. They won't say it's option A versus option B. They're just simply saying they have a lot of faith in Mason Rudolph if he has to be the starting quarterback in 2025. Omar Khan said that it's a safe bet another veteran quarterback is on the roster. Mike Tomlin kind of made it sound like if that is the case, it's not necessarily a big name veteran quarterback, that it's not a guy that's going to come in here and shake everything up like Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Russ was ever really an option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everything that I've been told is that Russ was so far down the list that he was almost gone before the season ended, and they were just very comfortable with that situation. They seem to be more comfortable with Mason. Adding a veteran, if Rodgers is not the case, is not the guy, is on the table, but it sure sounds like Aaron Rodgers is the guy. And then just to top this off, to end my rant, to give you the floor here, speaking to people around here, sources, executives, owners, that kind of stuff, there is a very, very strong belief that this thing is pretty much done and that Aaron Rodgers is pretty much already coming to Pittsburgh. Now, that could change. It's Aaron Rodgers. We have no idea what's going to happen. When? Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow, who knows? But there's a pretty strong belief that Aaron is going to be a Steeler and that things are finally at a place where a resolution is coming, might be coming quick, and we'll see what happens from there. I'll give you the floor on that one. Tomlin speaks, Omar speaks. You got to watch both of them. Strong belief in that. And then obviously DK Metcalf, your thoughts on the whole situation.
What's up, Steelers Nation? I'm here to tell you about our new partner, Penalty Verdict. You ever watch college or NFL games and think, that call wasn't right? Yeah, We all do. Now you can vote on it. With the Penalty Verdict app, you can vote on NFL and college football penalties in real time. Use the app to share your thoughts and engage in a community with fans who are looking for fair and accountable play. Unlock the next dimension of sports by engaging with real-time polling on referees, players, and teams. Then view data-driven insight to have informed discussions about the game. Penalty Verdict is in the developmental phase and would love to hear feedback from you. What features do you want to see in the app next football season? Vote on NFL and college football penalty calls in real time with Penalty Verdict. Use our link.penaltyverdict.com/allsteelerstalk to get started today.
Yeah, the one thing that jumped out and has made me think the most is when Omar Khan said, yeah, we're still going to bring in probably 2 quarterbacks. And now the thing is like we were all expecting that. We're all thinking, okay, quarterback in the draft and Aaron Rodgers. And that is still the most likely scenario. But if it's not a quarterback in the draft, then why would there be a 4th quarterback? Why would there be somebody else that got brought in? So what that essentially confirmed to me, which is something we had speculated upon, is there is going to be a quarterback drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, whether that is a 1st rounder or a 7th rounder or anything in between, that's anybody's guess. We've obviously speculated upon Jalen Milroe. We've talked a little bit about Jackson Dart. Sanders is becoming a more prevalent question as time goes on here as we get into April. But what it did signify to me is there is going to be a rookie quarterback in the Steelers quarterback room in 2025. And I like that. You know, depending on where they get him, obviously we can have that discussion at a later date. But I like the fact that they're bringing in somebody to be able to try to mold. Now, whether or not that ends up being the guy, again, discussion for a later date. But all of the discussion, all of the topics, every answer that we've gotten from those 2 guys over the last 2 days, I agree. From the outside looking in, not even having conversations with Mark Caboli and all your friends down there, it feels like this Aaron Rodgers thing is pointed in one direction, and that's the Steelers.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, you know, shout out to Kaboom and all those guys, but you know, the belief is more among the executives around the league, you know, the owners around the league, those who sign the paychecks. And I think because of that, you know, you got to feel confident that, okay, if they're hearing things, if steam's building there, then momentum's got to be in the right direction. And the Steelers, you know, they got to be close. Now, a couple of things to understand in this situation is an offer has not changed, and it has never changed. And it's not going to. You know, I saw giant Rich Eisen fan, and he tossed out 2 years, 70 million or something like that. And I was like, that's not going to happen. I have no idea what the number is, but I do know it's most likely a 1-year deal. And I don't think that has changed since. I don't think Russ's contract changes much either. I don't think that, you know, the fact that Russ signed a $21 million deal is going to impact Aaron Rodgers' money with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really, truly don't. It's just a matter of time and waiting and where they go from there. Now, if they don't, Omar did toss out trades on the table, and everybody's mind immediately goes to Kirk Cousins and says, is that an option? Like, are the Steelers going to go get that? I don't know what to believe in that situation. I think the Steelers would welcome Kirk with open arms. Hey, we'll go give up whatever we need to give up for Kirk Cousins and feel pretty good about giving anything up for Kirk, anything in the realm of reality up for Kirk Cousins. I don't think the Falcons are super open to it, but I also think that at some point there's going to be enough tension there that maybe that's there. When it comes to the draft, that's the big one here. As crazy as this sounds, you know, the Steelers are historically not a trade back team. Omar didn't hint, but sure as hell said, you know, getting back into the second round is plausible, is a situation that they could see themselves being a part of. That might mean next year's picks, but I mean, we are all anticipating that next year is a trade up and go get your guy and go use as many of those comp picks as possible. I mean, they might end up with 2 third-round comp picks. That's massive in this whole situation. That, to me, is like okay, like, you know, this year is a second, maybe a third-round guy. Next year is a first-round guy. Kind of gets you thinking about names like Jalen Milroe a little bit more. Kind of gets you thinking about names like Tyler Shuck and Quinn Ewers and maybe Will Howard a little bit more. And then if Aaron does not sign by whatever craziness that could happen, which it's Aaron Rodgers, we have no idea. It's the end of this. It's the one part that I was talking to somebody today. I was talking to a source today, and I laughed and I said, this is awesome. And they were like, what's awesome? And I just said, like, I cover the Steelers, man. Like, I did not at any point in my life think that this is what was going to happen, that we would be tracking Aaron Rodgers' every movement for a month, that this is the saga we'd be on. And they laughed back and they were like, it's fun, isn't it? And I was like, it's wild. It's a wild ride. So if for some reason it takes a turn and he doesn't end up in Pittsburgh, that quarterback that comes in here, like, the veteran isn't maybe it is. Maybe it's a challenger for Mason Rudolph, but I don't think it's it's a huge challenger for me. I don't think they're going to trade for Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones or anything like. I don't even think realistically they're going to go trade for Kirk Cousins. Though I think that's more on the table than many other options. I think it's more of a, I don't want to say Joe Flacco, but maybe a Carson Wentz, maybe a Joe Flacco, like a guy that could be a number 2. You go draft a quarterback that could be a number 2. There's the competition. And then again, as we've said many times, you head towards next year. I think that's where we stand with the Steelers situation. Again, I expect it to be Aaron Rodgers, and I expect it to be Aaron Rodgers more than I've ever expected it to be Aaron Rodgers. That could change. Lots going on here.